The Break Room, the podcast where the best work convos happen. We're joined today by your hosts, including workplace psychologist Ben
Hi, everyone.
and Maria,
Hello.
favorite Gen Z colleagues Isle, that's myself, hi, and Jaya.
Hello.
Today's episode, we'll be talking about corporate baddie. Before we get into it, let's define what it means. So, a corporate baddie is a professional who confidently owns their space and brings results. They're not just bold, they're backed by skills, strategy, and a strong sense of self worth. They speak up in meetings because they've done the work. They set boundaries because they know their time is valuable, and they show up authentically while still being credible, competent, and clear about their goals. And it's not just about being bossy or difficult, it's about showing up with intention, impact, and a whole lot of self respect. So, how do we step into that energy? Let's get into it. So, with the previous episodes, I think it kind of was some topics in a more serious tone or controversial takes. With this episode, I really wanted to focus on the confident energy and kind of have it be an uplifting episode where we each kind of share, dissect some fun facts, tips, and kind of get into the topic of how do we become corporate baddies in the workplace. So I think we all have that within ourselves, and I wanted that to be the focus of this episode. And so I have a roundtable question for everybody. Have you ever had moments at work where you felt like a baddie? So I think we can start with, how about Ben? You weren't around in the last episode, so why don't you give it a shot?
I thought that the rest can go first.
Ben might need
Not so
some.
much of a baddie.
Okay, sure. I think I can go first, and then the rest of the team can follow. So yeah, there were a few moments where I felt like a baddie. One that I could recall is during my first few months at iGROW, we used to do like team shout outs for star members of the week. I remember us doing that way back when, and I would be recognized several times for my design work. And it was very reassuring for me, especially since I was a new member of the workforce. It was my first year working. So having that kind of reassurance with the rest of your team and your coworkers, your bosses, it made me feel confident in my work that, oh, I'm working now and just being recognized for my work, it made me feel very confident and like a baddie.
That's very nice. I think I just want to say I still remember when you first joined us as well. Like Al, we were like blown away by your design and everything. We're so thankful that you were a part of the team. So yes, you're definitely a baddie there. And I'll just start, right? For me, I think usually I'm very go with the flow type of person that I don't really like to rock the boat or anything like that. But during COVID, it was a big time for change. And one of the things I had to do, and it happened to fall into my lap, was to change how we were structuring and doing our volunteer work. So I was managing these groups of volunteers for counseling. And due to COVID-19, all the centers were closed and we had to maneuver and start the services online. And due to so many different challenges using the online platform and getting everyone on board, I had to really put my foot down, to need to be consistent, need to be calm, need to listen to all the different parties as well, and just having to push the thing forward to make sure that we roll out what the community needed. So my goal was clear at that time, although it wasn't easy. And I was really proud that I was able to do it. So that's me. And Gio, what about you?
First and foremost, I've never thought about myself being a corporate body because I wasn't so sure what that means, and I thought it has some negative connotation, or I did not clearly understood what it means. But seeing how it is being described now in the introduction, I guess one particular moment I can share that I would like call myself as a corporate body was when in my previous job, when our CEO called me a rockstar employee not long after I joined the company. When I heard the term rockstar employee, I didn't know exactly what it means. I was like, am I a rockstar? Do I look like a rockstar? Like, I did not understand what it means. But then I had to search it up, and then I realized that, oh, I was actually it actually means something good. And I was the youngest member of the management team that time, and I didn't let that hold me back. And so I came in with drive and the mindset to make an impact ever since I heard that, because I became so motivated. That early recognition gave me the confidence to keep showing up fully, take initiative, and exceed expectations. And to which eventually led me to being awarded as Employee of the Year after 2 years and a half in the company with over 300 employees. And so it reminded me that age doesn't define value, because that time I was so young. I wasn't confident, but then I realized that your work and your value and attitude would really like make an impact to your job, and people would actually see it. So yeah, that's the moment I can share.
Yeah, nice. And thanks, Shreya, for that. And I guess for me, it's the same. Like when I first heard of Corporate Baddie, I was wondering what is Corporate Baddie? Am I missing out in some of the Gen Z information? And when I started to look more into it, like what you mentioned, Jay, is really about there's a positive part to it. And so I start thinking about have I felt like a baddie? I think the more notable experiences I can think of is working with clients, doing consulting work, trying to improve workplace mental well-being for organizations. And I remember clearly there's one that we did recently where we were conducting interviews to deep dive into some of the insights from engagement survey for the company. Of course, I can't tell you which company it is. And so it was a very illuminating and very insightful sessions from all the interviews, because we get to hear a lot of ground experiences, the impact of changes for others, and that helped to provide a lot of context. And I guess the Corporate Baddie experience is how we were able to convert this and communicate this assertively to the client to come up with policies, because the client has some idea of what they wanted to do, some parameters that were drawn. And from the interview, we know that that is not going to work. We need to shift and pivot some of the policy and programs. And so I think the Corporate Baddie portion is when we were very clear. I was very clear and was very assertive in what would work and to push the ideas across. And eventually the client adopted it. And we started to roll out policies and programs to help to build career resiliency, to look at personal value of each individual employee. That is not about job security anymore. It's about how do I constantly give more, and if I'm giving more value to the company than what the company is paying me, then chances of company kicking me out is pretty slim. So that was the impact of that Corporate Baddie experience. Yeah, so that's me.
Yeah, thanks, team, for sharing all of your takes. I think in this episode, we kind of showed that we haven't really come across this term before. And honestly, while I was doing my research for this episode, a corporate baddie originally means more of on the fashion side. So somebody who shows up at work and has very playful, very fashionista outfits. That's the original. That's the original meaning. But as I dove deeper into like my research and kind of coming up with my own understanding of it, also with like the Gen Z culture and everything. Yeah, I think I mentioned in the intro was like a corporate baddie is someone who's confident and competent. And so hearing all of your takes, I think it's safe to say that everybody in this team is a corporate baddie. But yeah, it's really interesting to hear all of our takes, and we've shared all of our firsthand experiences with our corporate baddie moments in the workplace. Now, I want to get into the expert lens of trying to dissect what like a deeper discussion into becoming a corporate baddie, or just kind of dissecting it a lot deeper. And so we have our workplace psychologists in this episode. We don't just have one, but we have two. We both have Ben and Maria in this pod. And so it would be really interesting to get your takes on this topic. So I have a question for you both, and it would be really interesting to hear what you both have to say about it. And so my first question is, I think especially if you're just starting out with your new job, or you're fresh out of college, or you might be transitioning into a new career in a new industry, a new niche. So can somebody learn to be confident even if they weren't raised to be outspoken? I think being outspoken is a trait that is much appreciated, especially in like team culture, team dynamics, especially with working not just with the internal team. If you're someone who also works with an external team or associates, I think just developing that skill in the long run really helps. So, can somebody learn to be confident even if they weren't raised to be outspoken? What's your take on it?
Okay. So thanks, Al, for the questions. And I just want to add as well, right? Like before this episode, and when you were sent out like the information about corporate baddie, I was like, oh, what is this term? Like, all these. So I had to do my own like research as well. And I realized that it originates like it's more of a link to pop culture, more from the Western side that talks about like someone who's more empowered, someone who's more self-assured and more results driven, right? But I would just want to add in like the Asian context as well, because it's not something that we often hear of. And just like what Jaya was mentioning, that, hey, corporate baddie sounds like a negative thing, right? And in fact, it is something that is positive. And perhaps if I can just add in some of the Asian context that in applying to the workplace for us, it doesn't have to be someone that is outspoken all the time. Perhaps it's being bold in different form. For example, instead of saying someone that is saying out loud that someone is doing wrong or something like that, it's more of like being consistent, being able to clarify, having that consistency, being able to support others and being composed, even when there are challenges. I think that's something that I would add into the meaning of the corporate baddie. And I think that is applicable to us here in Asia and everyone here also. And so talking about that, right? Can you actually be more confident? I am confident to say that yes, you can. And there are many ways, right, that you can actually be confident because it's something that is learnable, that's something that you can do. And confidence itself is not a fixed trait. It's a skill that can be shaped, whether it's through our upbringing, it's our experiences. And it's just like when you go to the gym, I know that most of you guys here go to the gym as well. And then you you do your weights and everything, right? And to strengthen your muscle. It's how we want to strengthen our confidence is the same as well, that we need to practice, we need to put in effort, and we need to start small. And perhaps later on, I'll share a little bit more on how to do that. But in short, the answer is yes, you can build up your confidence, and even if you're not outspoken all the time.
Yeah, and just building on like just some key points of what Maria talked about. Yes, confidence is learnable, and it's like muscles that you continue to build on it. And more importantly, what I want to share is confidence is built through actions, not just waiting to feel ready. And the formula is actually pretty straightforward. Take action, build mastery and skills, and then this will reinforce your belief that I'm able to do it. Because confidence follows action, not the other way around. And I think as how Al and Jia has shared earlier, their experience of being a rock star employee, of getting shout outs, these affirmations to them that continues to build confidence because of actions that they have taken. So it is about going through action. And the other part that is important, which Maria spoke briefly about as well, is that not being outspoken doesn't necessarily mean not being powerful, because it's about the influence. So there are some people that are quietly confident, right? And they don't have to be very loud to be impactful. And it's about being assertive. And assertiveness can look like having eye contact, having that clarity of mind, and talking about things that they know if they're not sure, to say that they will get back to you. So yeah, definitely confidence is something that can be learned.
Yeah, I think I've heard from both of you, Maria and Ben, that confidence is a learnable action. And I've also learned from my manager before, who would just tell me to fake it until you make it. But then it sounds so easy to just fake it, but then it's actually really hard. So many people would give advices, oh, be confident and give all these tips. But then when you actually try to like apply it, it's actually really hard when internally you don't believe in yourself. And so I'm curious, with the both of you, how can people overcome imposter syndrome in professional settings? What do you think?
Okay, that's a good question. And imposter syndrome is really more of like an internal experience, right? Of believing that you're not competent enough, that others will find out about you, that you're not good, and you're just pretending and then you're just faking it. And all of these shows that there's like self-doubt about yourself. And although you're trying to appear well and confident, there's a internal self-doubt, right, that you have. And this is something that a lot of people feel. Even for myself, I do feel that at times also. And who doesn't? It's something that all of us do experience or doubt ourselves from time to time. And so to overcome it, it's really important. And this is something that I do for myself. And I hope that this is something that is helpful for everyone who's listening, is to recognize your own worth and having a list of strengths and skills and values that you hold on to, like something that you feel like this is me, this is something that I'm good at. And it doesn't matter what skills or strength that you have, it's for yourself, right? Nobody else is judging you, and you need to remember that. So having that listed out somewhere or even posted around to remind yourself that, hey, I am a baddie in a way, right? So just like connecting the two, that I am good and recognizing it. So the other thing is oftentimes we doubt ourselves in a situation that is challenging, that we feel that it's not really within our control. So the second thing would be to know what you can control and what you cannot control. And this means protecting your boundary, right? And the third point is to remain authentic. And what makes imposter syndrome hard sometimes is this idea of perfectionism, that we need to be good. We need to be like 100% perfect, that we need to be like a super badass and to do things, right? That you need to wow people all the time. But again, that I don't think that's realistic. And being authentic, meaning that we try our best to do the things that we do. We strive to do the best, but we also seek support and acknowledge areas where we struggle and get support from our team. And that's why we have teams in the first place. So just a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point that you have raised. Thanks, Maria, for that. And I'm so curious to hear from our Gen Zs, right? Our favorite Gen Zs. I think the question that I have is, how do you show up confidently, even if you are the youngest person in the room? And I wonder if we could hear from Jaya first, because she got voted Rockstar Employee, right? So how do you show up confidently, even if you're the youngest person in the room?
Honestly, I've learned that confidence doesn't come from age. It comes from preparation, presence, and perspective. I've always been the youngest person in the room, and working in multi-generational companies taught me early on how to hold my own while respecting the experience around me. It was quite hard at first because I felt like I was the youngest, and I feel so shy to give my inputs and opinions, but I remind myself that I've earned my seat at the table for a reason, and I've done the work. I know my stuff, and I show up with the intentions to add value and not just to take up space. And so being the youngest can be intimidating, but I changed my mindset over time. Instead of seeing it as a disadvantage, I see it as an edge, because I would bring in fresh ideas, adaptability, and a pulse on what's current or updated right now. And that combination plus being open to learning really helped me carry myself with both humility and strength. So for me, at the end of the day, confidence for me isn't about knowing everything. It's about showing up, staying grounded, and trusting that I belong, even if I'm still learning. So that's for me.
That's really interesting, Jaya. And that's really good because you honestly just sounded like a badass now. Yeah, I guess for me, presumably, if you're the youngest person in the room, I think this is just from previous experience as well, right? In the past, especially when we were just starting out. If you're the youngest person in the room, I think people don't really expect much from you since they're all aware that you're just starting out. But I think an advice that my college professor said in the past that kind of stuck with me is to be like a sponge. basically what she meant by that is to be like a lifelong learner. And so I think my take would be trying to stay engaged and driven. So staying curious, asking questions, and following up with action. So that's something that I learned, especially if you're not quite aware yet, you don't know what to do yet. It's such a new setting for you, a new environment. I think just staying engaged and following up with action, that would definitely help with being confident. Similar to what Ben said, that confidence is built by action. So I think just the first step of taking small actions to be better at work. So I think that's how I guess that's my take on confidently showing up, even if you're the youngest person in the room. You don't have to be the smartest and you don't have to know everything, but just kind of building that first step of taking small actions and staying engaged with the team and learning how to do that along the way. So yeah, that would be mine.
Thanks, Al. It's been a while since I'm like the youngest person in the room. Can't remember when was the last time, but I really love the analogy, like, be like a sponge and being engaged. I think that is really useful no matter how old you are, right? But I have another questions for the both of you. Like, any tips for Gen Z trying to balance ambition with skills?
Yeah, I guess I can go first. So I think something that I see online, especially with TikTok and like Instagram trends, is I think people have different ideas of what a corporate baddie is. And so sometimes I think you can focus on the wrong kind of assets, which is mostly just superficial or surface level. So you might be wearing the most fashionista outfits to the office, or have like a Stanley Cup. I don't know if you guys are in like the Stanley Cup trend, but like people have like these Stanley Cups on their desks, and that's like a symbol of like a corporate baddie or something. So it can either be pink or purple. But anyway, I'm getting off topic. But basically, I think diving into this trend, maybe some people can see the wrong, or the I wouldn't say wrong, but kind of the superficial assets of it, of just like being a fashionista or your material things in terms of being a corporate baddie or just wearing full gown makeup and everything. But I think you can build confidence through your physical appearance and the things that you bring in the office. But I think confidence and competence should also go hand in hand. So not just building your physical look, but as well as your internal. So upskilling yourself, upskilling your resume, your skills, and just kind of learning new things along the way. And I don't think, for me, it might be a controversial take or like a hot take, but I don't think you can be confident but lack the skills to back you up in the corporate world. I think it should go hand in hand, and vice versa. You might have the skills, but you're not confident enough to show it. I think that also is not good. So I think having confidence and competence should go hand in hand. And so my tip is to work on both. I think learn how to speak with confidence and carry yourself with grace, but at the same time adapting the mindset of a lifelong learner, which meaning that always trying to skill and learn new things. And so I think developing both that skills of trying to look as presentable as graceful in terms of like your physical self, but at the same time also carrying yourself with grace and being professional and upskilling yourself. I think that would be my tip in terms of trying to balance like ambition and skill. I think it would really bring you far places in the long run. So yeah, that's my take. How about you, Jaya?
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. And just to chime in, I guess of when you say corporate body, people are focusing on power dressing, but then sometimes power dressing or pretending to have that power dressing code doesn't really like show clearly to what you were trying to portray, or some were just faking it and then they pretend to be this corporate body, but then as what Al said, you don't have the skills or competence to back you up. And so I agree with that. And for me, I've been an ambitious person, but I learned early on that ambition only works if it's backed by self-awareness. So aside from competence and skills, it's also about self-awareness because for me, what really helped me was getting clear on my values and strengths. For me, I value strong work ethics and being dependable and always giving my best even if I am still learning. And so even if you pretend to be power dressing and you don't have those values, like personal values, then I think you wouldn't be a real corporate body. And I've worked in environments where I was the youngest and I didn't always have all the skills right away. But what helped me stand out was my mindset. For me, self awareness and having that growth mindset is really helpful. I stayed curious, open to feedback, and approach everything with a willingness to grow. And for me, that's the key having a growth mindset and being willing to do the work, even when it's not uncomfortable. Because there are many people that when they feel uncomfortable, they would just back out or stay away right away. But then you have to be confident and take it as a learning lesson and learn from that. And so, my advice know what matters to you, stay grounded in your values, and let that guide how you show up. You don't need to have it all figured out. You just have to focus on progress, not perfection, and the skills will catch up to your ambition. So, that's my take with ambition and skills, like having to balance both.
Yeah, the baddie spoke again.
She always have like all the nice tips, right? I don't know what am I doing here. Jaya can run like, the next podcast and with you only Al.
I feel like I'm listening to a wizard, like, oh yeah, all that. Let me soak all that knowledge in. But actually, I have a question for both Ben and Maria, which I'm quite curious about. So you guys asked us about how do we show up confidently, even if we're the youngest person in the room. I actually have like a follow-up question to that. With you guys, do you guys still feel that way? Like with all the experience that you've had now and having to be in this point in your career and your stage in life, sometimes when you go into meetings, like new meetings with new people, new clients, do you sometimes still feel like I wouldn't say dumb, but do you sometimes feel like you're unprepared or you're not the like brightest person in the room? Do you guys still feel that way? And if you do, how do you guys manage that? Yeah, I guess I'm curious.
Yeah, maybe I can go first. Like, yes, I feel that sometimes, all the time, and it's like the imposter syndrome that we talk about, right? Like sometimes we kind of feel that, am I an imposter trying to do all this? And I guess, how do I deal and how do I manage that? I think the first thing that I would do for myself is to remember my past experiences, what I've done before in the past, and to know that those past experiences are the evidence of things that I've done before, what I've covered. And the second part is to remember the training that I've received. Because sometimes when I show up to do a session for like a group of corporate executives, if it's all C-suite level, then I am not sure if I am equipped to share insights with them, meaningful insights with them. And then I remember my experiences. The second one is my training, what I've learned in psychology and that perspective that I come from. And the third one is to be curious, that I don't have to be the smartest person in the room. I just need to ask the right questions. So instead of me having the answer, I shift the focus to what questions can I ask so that I have more context, that I can learn more about what the topic is, to learn more about the client, to learn more about the people in the meeting. So this helps me to soak in like a sponge, as Al mentioned, all the information. Yeah, so that's me, how I deal with it. Maria, what about you?
I still do get nervous every time I do like a talk, a public talk, or like a corporate talk right in front of people. And I always feel like I question myself whether I'm prepared, if I'm able to answer any of the questions that I have and all these things. And I have to remind myself that being nervous is natural. Every time that you go for a session or anything like that, it's okay to feel nervous. However, I need to catch my own thoughts what is the negative thought that's coming with that feeling. And if it is something along the line of not good enough, or I'm not prepared, or things will go bad, then I need to tackle those. And I need to keep it real. That says, and I remind myself that, hey, this is not the first time you're doing the talk. This is not the first time you're, going through this topic. This is something that you know very well. And that's why they have invited you to come and do the session. And all of these would help me to perhaps calm down, reduce that feeling, the negative feeling. And once I get into the flow of the talk, then I'm okay. But yes, to answer, I do still feel that quite a lot. And it's just about managing that feeling.
Yeah. I'm glad you guys answered that question, because it sounds to me like you're never gonna get rid of imposter syndrome, or you're never gonna get rid of it. But I think developing the skill of self-awareness and reassuring yourself then becomes the skill of like bringing your confidence with you. So I think it sounds to me that it comes with age, with or it comes with experience as well, and like how you kind of manage your self-awareness. You're trying to assure yourself and like reminding yourself that, hey, like I'm actually skilled to do this, like I have all this experience with me. And so yeah, that's very reassuring to me, because it sounds like that thought in your brain might never go away, but knowing the skill, I mean, like developing the skill to back that up is gonna come with experience. So yeah, thanks everybody for all of your takes. And they're real, they were bold, and they were definitely relatable. So now I actually want to have a little fun with the team. So for this episode, we're actually playing a game which I will be calling Baddie or Bratty. So basically, like a baddie is what we've been talking about this whole episode, is somebody who's confident, knows their boundaries, and respects that in the workplace. Bratty is, I guess, like a spoiled brat or something, which I think is self-explanatory. So I'll be listing out a few workplace behaviors, and I want to ask the team if this person is a confident baddie, or if what they're doing is a bratty move. So I have 12 examples. I have 12 scenarios, and each of us is gonna go through if this person is a baddie or a bratty. So is the game clear? Is everybody ready?
Yes.
Okay, let's start. So question number 1. Turns off WhatsApp or Trello after 6 p.m. No explanation. Baddie or bratty?
Betty.
Baddie.
I'm 50-50 on it. What's your take, Ben?
I think it's about setting boundaries, if especially when, I guess if I can qualify, if the work is not urgent that needs to be attended immediately, I think it is Betty, because they are setting boundaries. Jay, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree with Ben. As long as you're able to do everything within the day, then it's body, because sometimes especially when you work from home, it's kind of hard to separate yourself with work and phone. So it's kind of with you the whole time. But then it's like a body if there's it's very urgent, it's literally tomorrow, and you already seen it and you don't act upon it, then it becomes like bratty. But overall for me, it's body. Yeah. How about you, Maria?
So for me, it would be depends. Like just like Jaya, what you mentioned, right? It really depends on the culture. If you just don't answer and you don't tell anyone, then that's not nice also, because you're working in a team, your colleague might be dependent on something that's really urgent from you. And if you disappear, then that's more of a being irresponsible rather than being a baddie. But if there is a corporate culture that says, if you have a good culture that says, hey, 6 p.m., no more contact, then yeah, that would be a baddie. Al?
Yeah, I have a very similar answer to Maria. So I'm like I'm 50-50 on this. And it really depends on, I think I'm turning off WhatsApp or Trello after 6 p.m. For me, you would be considered a baddie if you work in a good culture, like a good team. But I think you might be considered a brat if the team, or like the team you work with, always expects you to be 24/7 around the clock, always on call, and you feel like you're always burnt out every day. So you might be seen as a baddie in that context, but you would be considered a baddie, I think, if you have a good supportive team. So yeah. Anyway, next question. Second is, says that it's not in my job description when asked to help with admin work. baddie or bratty?
Bratty.
Yeah, I think we all have the same answer. But Ben, do you want to talk about it a little?
Yeah, I think it's about being part of a team, right? And the culture and supportive environment. So for me, I think that is a bratty, and also a tone matters as well. Yeah. Gia?
Yeah, I agree with Ben. For me, if you're not willing to extend help, then you wouldn't be getting that help at all for you. So I think if you're in a team, teamwork is really important as well as collaboration. And so if you're willing to go beyond your job, then everyone would be helping you as well. And there will be synergy among the team. Yeah. How
Maria?
about you, Maria?
I think for me, I'm leaning towards like the bratty, because if I need help and then someone say, "Oh, that's not within my scope," I'll be like, "What?" So for me, that would be more of a definitely bratty. Oh,
I agree with the rest of the team. I have no further comments. I think we all. So next question: shows up on Zoom with a full glam look every day. Baddie or bratty?
Daddy.
daddy.
Bari.
I think that was very in this episode.
Thanks to the filters and everything. But honestly, I think that takes effort if for anyone to be full glam every day. And then it just shows that, hey, they really, it's not necessary for everyone, right? But if it matters to the person and to look good, to feel good, why not? That's a super baddie for me.
Yeah, I agree. I think I've seen a lot of reels on Instagram where people go to their corporate jobs and then they dress up, they look cute, and it just feels very empowering to look at. And I also really like the fashion sense that they have and what makeup they use. If you feel good, if you look good, you feel good. And so I think if that's something that you practice and it actually shows in your work, then yeah, I think that's a very baddie move. Yeah. How about
Yeah, I agree with look good to feel good. Because for me, like honestly, in my previous job, no one ever seen me without eyeliner or blush on or lipstick. But then everyone, when they're stressed, there are days that they don't put lipstick at all and whatnot. But then for me, it's like an everyday requirement because it makes me feel good and make my start day. I let me start my day even better. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with all of you. If nothing else to add as well.
Wait, I have a question. It's makeup and like it's makeup for girls. What is it like for men? Like what's something you do to feel good? Like look good, feel good.
I think wearing, at least for me, the context would be wearing a nice shirt, maybe styling the hair, So these would be the things that guys do. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Very low maintenance, Ben.
Very cute. Okay, next question. Declines all optional team bonding activities with no explanation. Baddie or bratty?
Depends.
Might be bratty. Ben, you want to share your thoughts?
I think that it's about explaining, and maybe giving context to why they are not participating. If there's no explanation, I think then it kind of shows as disinterested and disengaged. So I think the explanation is important.
But I disagree with that, because the word optional is there, that then they can attend or not. And depending really on the life stage, right, that they are in. And I think Gen Z or younger generation, I feel so old now talking about younger generations, but sometimes, you have more time, you want to get to know more people, you have the energy, unlimited energy, and then you don't mind doing all these wonderful activities and team bonding. But for people in a different life stage, those who are parents or caregivers, then I think it's really hard for them to offer more time, because they're already squeezed with all the time that they have, right, to take care of other people, and they're already struggling with their own self-care. They might need their own individual time. So that's why for me it depends. That sometimes as HR, when we're organizing things, we want people to attend, but we also need to be mindful that people have they're in different life stages. So for me it depends. Gia?
Yeah, I think I agree with Ben and Maria. I just think overall it's like bratty, especially if you really don't get involved yourself or just refuse to join without any explanation or reasons. But it also depends on the company culture. In the event that there is some bullying or like groupings or divisions among the team that leads to that person saying no to those outing, then of course it's not a bratty move, but it's just protecting your peace. So yeah, it actually depends. And it depends as well on the frequency. If the company is demanding so much time in those extracurricular activity and it's affecting your personal life and me time, then of course it's not good and you have all the reason to not join for the most part.
Yeah. I actually have a similar answer to Ben, but I agree with everybody in that is it might come off baddie just be sorry, it might come off as bratty just because yeah, I think having a clear explanation or kind of like a reason, just letting everybody in the team know like why you're not joining or kind of setting that expectation early on. Because if the team is always constantly trying to kind of bond together and there's this one person who's always not showing up or doesn't want to bother, I think it could also leave a sour feeling for the rest of the team, like they want to make that effort but then there's this one person who just doesn't want to bother at all. So also we don't know the person, we don't know the reason behind that person's decision, but I think maybe just kind of giving a heads up that they're not joining or setting a clear expectation, I think that could help. But yeah, maybe I don't know. I think it might be a bratty move, but yeah, I agree with the rest of the team as well. Like there's different sides to every story, so it could be like a 50-50 situation. But yeah, thanks for the team. So next question is says no to overtime because they have a gym class or self-care night, baddie or bratty. Nice, like yeah. Wanna share your thoughts?
Depends. I think for me it's a depends because if there is an urgent work, then just checking out, because they want to take care of themselves is I think it's about responsibility and being a team player, right? So that's why it really depends. If the work is urgent, that needs to be attended to. If it's not, it can wait for the next work day, then I think that is okay. Yeah, so that's why.
Okay.
Okay. For me, so first I would say body. If it depends on the frequency. If the organization is demanding of OT like almost every day and it's just due to lack of planning and preparation and it's affecting you when you've already done everything you could and prepared everything for them, but then they just revert back to you so late, like at the end of the shift, and you've already planned everything ahead of time, then I guess it's a body when you stand your ground, especially when it's happening all the time. But then again, it depends on the urgency of the project or whatever we are working on. So it's a body and it's bratty if you refuse to work overtime when it's actually needed and the decision of the team and the result of the project is dependent on you and it's actually impacting the whole team. So yeah, it's for me it's more like prioritization.
Nice.
Thanks. For me, I would agree with Ben. Really just depends on like the project and the urgency. Al?
Yeah, same. I put mine as 50-50 because you would be a baddie if this is something that you planned ahead of time and then there's like this sudden task or urgent task that kind of showed up. So it kind of disrupts the plan that you already made for yourself. So I think for me, it would be a baddie if it was already planned ahead and then there's just something that showed up. But yeah, I agree. You would be considered a brat if it's an urgent task, the team depends on it, and you just kind of refuse to acknowledge it. So yeah, I guess for me it's 50-50. It depends on the situation. I also agree with what Jaya said on how frequent it actually happens and like the prioritization of tasks. So this is kind of a 50-50 one. Okay, next question. Negotiate salary before accepting the job offer. Baddie or bratty?
Baddie.
Baddie.
Explanation. We all have the same answer.
Yeah, I think that is good because they know their value and all. So I think that's a baddie for me, straightforward.
I agree.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, I agree. I think everybody else agrees as well. We all have the same answer. So next question. Corrects their manager in a meeting publicly and confidently. Baddie or bratty? Bratty.
Depends.
How's your
Bratty.
Well, this is an interesting one.
Yeah. Maybe, Jaya, you want to go first? Like, you're very clear.
Okay. For me, it's bratty when you do it publicly and confidently. Because for me, like in a personal experience, when you're in a team meeting and then you're representing your department, and then it's your co team member within your department that is correcting you, then it would be misinterpreted by the other departments that you yourselves in the organization or department are not actually aligned. And so when you do it face to face, confidently like that and publicly, it could be misinterpreted that, oh, the other department won't trust us anymore because we ourselves are correcting each other in front of everybody. But then if you're correcting someone else and then it's the only opportunity to actually like discuss the overall project, then I guess it depends on the tone, because confidence can be like two-way. It could come out as you being so confident and egoistic, but then there's no substance to it. But then if you're confident and approach it with empathy and just try to make them understand the whole thing, then it's a baddie move. But other than that, I would think it's bratty. That's my take.
Nice.
And
And
what about you?
I think for me, it's about how it's being said. So I think what's important for a corporate baddie is to be assertive but not aggressive. And I think if they step on other people to make themselves look good or to make themselves be correct, then that is definitely a bratty moment. And yeah, so it's more about how it's being said.
Thanks. I agree. And for me, it's about reading the room. And I mentioned about the cultural context, right? How, for example, if you are working in a company that's more Asian, has an Asian culture, then in the team dynamic, respecting, being respectful, and all these would be important. And if you sort of like correct it in a very harsh tone or say like you're wrong or something like that, I don't think that's going to be very helpful for the team dynamic. And part of being a baddie is to know when to do certain things and how you can be consistent and also push your what you want along. Even if it's wrong, then you need to be able to read and then decide how and when to say and correct that. Al, what about you?
Yeah, I agree. I think it depends on your delivery. So my answer was bratty because I think correction is it's good, it's fine because I think that's the point of meetings is to openly discuss the project, right, or what the agenda is. So I think correction is fine, but it depends on the approach. When the approach is gentle, then I think it's okay, but then also at the other hand, public humiliation is another. I think that could also be considered like public humiliation if you're trying to correct your manager, your team member publicly and confidently, and how you approach it, your tone. Correction is fine. I think it depends on the approach. If you're too aggressive, it might be considered as public humiliation, like you're just trying to embarrass your team member or embarrass your manager. So I think in this context, everybody said their piece. I think it depends on your delivery or how and the context, like as Maria mentioned, or like what the setting is. So yeah, that's our answers. I guess if for the listeners on this podcast, this is so far the controversial take. I'm curious to know your opinion. So leave a comment below if you're on Spotify or YouTube. What do you think is your take on this? Okay. So next question is refuses to turn on their camera during Zoom calls all the time. Baddie or bratty?
Bratty.
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 But I think we are talking about like, our own company culture that we're so used to turning on like our webcam and then get to see each other and all these, right? So perhaps we're also leaning towards like seeing it as a baddie because it is our culture to show up and show your face. What do you think?
Yeah, but the context is like always refusing to turn on your webcam. So I think like that's a bratty move. I think especially during the pandemic, me and Jay were in college at that time, and we would turn on our cameras, but then our classmates would always turn theirs off, and I think we would always feel a little sorry for our teacher because it feels like she's just talking to a black screen, and then there's like only three students who have their cameras on, and so I think in a Zoom setting, like in an online setting, it's kind of like the first step of respect is to show your face. We're not seeing each other face to face, so maybe like it's a good effort to kind of just talk to somebody face to face, have your webcam on. And yeah, I think in some settings, maybe in some contexts, it might be disrespectful if you're always doing it. And if it might be a client that you work with and then it's your first time meeting online, but you just refuse to show your face, like you refuse to show up. It might be like a little disrespectful or a little, it could be taken out of context, like in a bad way. So I'm leaning more towards bratty. Yeah. How about you, Jaya?
Yeah, I think overall, in a work from home setup, I guess the least thing we could do is to actually turn on our cameras, especially when we are having our weekly catch up and we're dealing with the clients. It's one way to show credibility and that you're actually there listening and attentive to the meeting. But I guess the only time it would be considered as okay if you're actually sick and then you're just having like a quick catch up to discuss a project that you're working on, or just a quick call to like clear out some projects or instruction. But other than that, if it's a planned meeting, then yeah, it's a bare minimum to just turn on the camera and be there.
Yeah. How about you, Ben?
Yeah, same like what all of you have mentioned. And I feel that the on camera is also respecting the rest of the people in the meeting. Yeah, that's all.
Okay. So next is writes as previously mentioned in a follow-up email. Baddie or brat? I'm going towards baddie.
Baddie.
How about you? What about Jaya and Maria? Writes as previously mentioned in a follow-up email.
I'm like I can explain first because for me I used to do it all the time or many times because I just think that it's applicable. Like I actually said it and the other person missed it. So I would just want to highlight that I actually mentioned it and I did not think so much about it. But then I was talking to my colleague before and then she told me that I sounded so like it didn't sound so good, or sometimes it could be misinterpreted that I sounded too harsh or something because I make the other person feel stupid for not reading it. And so for me, I guess it might be bratty, but at the same time it's bratty. It's kind of conflicting. But over time I haven't done that for a long time, but I guess I would do it like in a verbal discussion. Like I would try to remind them, as I've previously said, this is what we've discussed. Or especially when you're trying to list all the agenda or all the checklists, then I think it's important to still say it like that. Yeah.
I agree. And for me, right, I do that if I'm annoyed at someone who, I said it like, one or two times already, and then like you're still asking me the same thing. So I'll be like, in my frustration and annoyance, I would say like as previously mentioned. Yeah. So due to that, I'm a little bit like, half on this because how I do it, sometimes it can be passive aggressive. Ben, you?
Yeah, I have nothing else. Yeah.
I'm taken aback of like Jaya and Maria's answers. I haven't really thought of it in that way. I think the intention for me when I say as previously mentioned is as previously mentioned, like it is what it is. There's really no like intention of trying to like shame the other person. I think it's really just like following up on like a certain aspect in the previous email or something. So yeah, I think for me I did go towards like like baddie because you're just following up on a certain something. I didn't think that there was like an intention. It might be passive aggressive that somebody else might imply on you. But yeah, that's interesting takes because I never thought of it that way. So mine's like a baddie, just because you're just following up. Okay, next is uses bold or slang language in professional emails. For example, let's play this project. Let's get it up, gang. Yeah, bold or slang language email. I'm going more
Bratty.
towards.
I think this is a general generational difference here.
You can
Yeah.
go first, Al.
I would say bratty just because I understand the language. I just don't think that it's appropriate for all settings. So if that's how we talk on Instagram or like, oh, slay, baddie, like fire emoji, like that's how we talk on Instagram, that might not apply for email or work emails, like work settings. So I think you might be considered a bratty just because that's the language of like the internet. I don't think it's applicable for the work setting. So I would say bratty. How about you, Jaya?
Yeah, I would say bratty mainly because I don't want it to become a norm. Because I've had this colleague and he or she would be like using slang all the time verbally and then ended up using it in the email. And then when we were trying to make a formal report, he or she wasn't able to like make it like properly or write it properly because he or she got used to it. And so I think if it becomes a norm, then it's really a bratty move because it's hard for us to draw the line between business communication and just slang. And so it's important to still maintain professionalism in a corporate setting. And I guess slang conversation is only applicable if you're chatting on WhatsApp. And it depends on your relationship as well. Because there are some people who are actually so formal. And so it would just be best to stay formal and just be nice overall.
Wait, I
Yeah.
have a question. Do you get the ick? Like this for Jaya. Do you get the ick if like somebody tries to talk like internet slang all the time? Do you get the ick with that?
It depends. I mean, sometimes I would do it and I said to my colleague or boss before that slay because the outfit is nice or it's giving. But then for me, I would only do it depending on the relationship. But then if you are overdoing it, and sometimes you would say it for the whole sentence or the whole paragraph, then I would be like, I don't understand anymore and it's too much. Yeah.
Ben and
Maria,
I are lost already.
exactly what is
Mhm.
giving and
I can
what
see
is
your face.
and what is ick, you know?
I know. Okay. I was just like trying to pretend just like, roll with whatever they say, but yeah, I have no clue. But
So I
coming
think for
to
me, it's
yeah.
it depends because if it's an internal email with the immediate team members, maybe that's okay. But if it's with clients, then it's a clear no. Yeah, Maria,
Yeah, same. Nothing else to add.
generation.
Yeah.
We're gonna have to have like a Gen Z slang quiz part with Ben and Maria.
I need to go and study again.
Okay, next question. Bought their own ergonomic chair. So someone who bought their own ergonomic chair, baddie or bratty?
Baddie.
Baddie.
Patty.
As well, especially with their backs.
Yeah, they should buy for the rest of the people too. Well, at least for me.
Oh, we actually had someone who brought in a ball, ergonomic ball to sit and to exercise in the office before. And that was like such a baddie move. And we all like took turn like, hey, can I borrow and everything? Yeah.
That's really cool. Yeah. This is the last question. Posts outfit of the day selfies at work on IG stories. Baddie or bratty? Think baddie.
Baddie.
It depends.
I want to hear from both of you. Why depends?
Jaya, go ahead.
I think it depends on the intention. I guess these days people are so focused with vanity and sometimes they think that they're power dressing, but then the underlying reason as to why they post it is because they just want attention and they just want to, I forgot the term, when you're trying to do that whole pose or like that sexy pose with your corporate outfit, then it doesn't come out as nice to me. And so I would think it actually depends on the intention. Some would just post their corporate outfit because it's nice and they feel good about it and they want to empower women. But then for me, there are times that I would actually, maybe I'm just judgmental, but I think it depends on the series of photos. Some would actually post like sexy pictures in that corporate outfit. And for me, it means something else. So yeah, that's why I'm like, depends.
For me, I have a different view. And when you ask about selfies at work, right, I'm thinking like, what else is in the background? Is it other like colleagues and people? Because I don't like it when people take photos and then I'm inside, without asking like for my consent, although I'm in the background, right? I kind of don't like that. And so if you're posting or taking photos in the office and then there are people behind, I think that's not nice, especially if you're not asking permission. And of course, the other thing is whether your office have any policies about like, taking photos and posting and all these or not from within the office. So for me, it depends. But if it's like, simple background and it doesn't really show much of the office, but there's just your outfit, why not? That's your personal space.
I think for me, I was leaning more towards baddie just because, like as I previously mentioned, if you look good, feel good. So if you want to post a picture of yourself, I think it's fine. But yeah, I think just hearing Jay and Maria's takes of it could be interpreted differently. Yeah, I guess putting into that context as well. But I was leaning more towards baddie just because if you look good, feel good, and then you want to post a photo of yourself, I think why not? How about
Yeah, I think it's for me. I lean baddie because it's look good, feel good, same as what you mentioned, and I think Jay and Maria's perspective is insightful. Yeah, so I guess it depends.
We just focus on the how of how it is being posted. Yeah.
Are you guys aware of the office siren trend?
What's that?
Yeah, what's that?
Oh, so you're talking about the like posting and then it's like interpreted differently. Office siren.
Oh, I didn't even know that. But just like it's for like cloud chasers. Like
Oh yeah.
I don't know if you know the term cloud chaser, but there are some, or like, what do you call that? When they're trying, thirst trap. Like,
Oh,
because sometimes they would be wearing this corporate outfit, but then they're focusing it on their like boobs or something, or their butt poking out. So like I've seen so many like that, and so for me, I think it's good in general to like look good, feel good. But then when you have this underlying intention to just thirst trap people, then I don't see it as a baddie, more like a bratty behavior.
I see. Okay.
Ben
I was-
and I are just nodding along and using a growth mindset to learn about the new terms that you guys are talking about.
Gen Z take part 2. Okay. Thanks, team. That was really chaotic, but in the best way and really eye-opening of like what our different perspectives are. And now that we've sorted the baddies from the bratties, I think that we could bring it home to our podcast of something real that the audience can take with them. So I think in this segment, we want to share some of our actionable takeaways from the episode. So I think me and Jaya can go first as the Gen Zs, our practical tips or just actionable takeaways that we want to give to the audience. So yeah, I think I can go first and then Jaya and then Ben and Maria can share their expert advice. Okay, so for me is an actionable takeaway for me is if you want to be a corporate baddie, I would suggest by starting by picking one skill that you want to be known for and then backing it up with action. So I think maybe an example for me is I think starting out, I was really interested in graphic design. And so that's one skill that I wanted to be known for and I wanted to cultivate towards throughout the years. And so just starting out with graphic design and then trying to make really good presentations. And then the next step is learning how to do it fast. So then just kind of scaling up from one skill to there. Confidence hits different when it's backed up by competence. So I think starting with one skill, being really good at it and knowing how to do it fast, I think that's where your confidence builds up. And then it can open up channels in different ways. So if, for example, you're really good at graphic design, then you could go to like podcast producing or making social media or stuff like that. So one skill opens you up for different skills. And so I think just kind of honing in with a one skill first, I think it's a good way to start. So I think my actionable takeaway is really just geared towards new workers, new people is trying to be good at one skill first. And then I think just honing down on that one skill opens you up to other opportunities. So yeah, that's my actionable takeaway. How about you, Jaya?
Yeah, for me, it's more like just a summary of the things I've mentioned earlier. So for me, overall, you just have to know your values and strengths because they would guide on how you would show up at work, personally and professionally. And also, you have to speak up when you have something to contribute, even if it feels scary. For me, I think it's better to get rejected than not try at all. And next would be to set healthy boundaries to take care of your well-being. And next would be to keep a growth mindset. You don't have to know everything, just stay open to learning. And very important, lastly, would be to show up with intention, kindness, and consistency. So that's it for me. Now I'm curious, how about Ben?
Yeah,
What would be your takeaway?
actually, both you and Al have given such nice takeaways. I guess for me, the something actionable for me, being a corporate baddie is about how we do things, and it's about that confidence. And confidence comes from taking actions. And I guess another important thing, my takeaway is to continuously be curious. And I think we've used words like growth mindset and all this so that we can continue learning. And for us, it's really, for me, it's the new Gen Z language that I picked up, the new perspective that is being shared. So constantly being curious. And yeah, I guess the last part is really to continue to be clear, to be kind to people. I think I really like that because it's not about stepping on other people so that you can look good. And it's about that empathy as well that we have for other people, and knowing what is appropriate, what is the appropriate thing to do in a particular setting, right thing in the right place, in the right way. Yeah. And Maria, what about you?
Nice. So I don't think I have anything new. We have covered quite a lot already. So I'm thinking I can just summarize what we have covered today into the 3 C's of corporate baddie. And the first C is confidence, knowing your own worth. And we talked about, well, I talked about writing down, right, your strength and knowing what you're good at. The second C is having that clarity, know your goals and values. And the final one, which is courage. And if you really have the competence and clarity, it means that you know what you can do, what you cannot do, what you should do, what you shouldn't do, and having the courage to follow through with it. And this includes speaking up, trying new things, being and learning new skills along the way if you find that you want to hone more skills. So these are the 3 C's of corporate baddie: competence, clarity, and courage. Over to you, Al.
Nice. And to our audience, that is your takeaway for the week. Big thanks to everybody for sharing your insights and your practical tips and your little baddie energy today. So I hope our baddie energy kind of radiates throughout our episode and kind of inspires you guys. For our listeners, whether you're in the office or you're working from home, hopefully this was a fun episode, because I found this episode to be really fun, especially since I mentioned in the intro that I really wanted this episode to be more uplifting and more confidence based. I think compared to our previous topics, it was a little bit controversial. So today was pretty fun. And as always, I hope that this convo gave our listeners something to think about and maybe even something new to try at work this week, some of our little takes or takeaways. So yeah, that's it for today's coffee break. Thanks for hanging out with us in the break room. Don't forget to share this with your favorite coworker, work buddy. And if you have thoughts, rants, or any problems that you want to share, slide into our DMs. We're at iGROWOnline on most platforms. And remember, your well-being matters even between meetings. Catch you next time. Bye, guys. Thanks for listening.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.